So we're continuing today in Meretz Hashem in Perek Dalid, and the Mechaber says as follows: V'yish b'nei adam kito she'ina mishtadlim liknos hamamon ulaharbos imenu el avos akoven b'nei adam v'lasos lahem shem v'in maspik lahem mimenu shum davar. So he writes over that there are some people who the reason they want to acquire wealth is because of the honor, the kavod, that they think that they are going to receive from other people as a result of this wealth. Now, of course, that when a person wants kavod is intoxicating and you can never have enough of it. So once a person wants kavod, all they want is more. And if I feel that my kavod comes from my money, I just want more and more money. And of course, this is fundamentally foolish. And the foolishness stems from a lack of understanding regarding where real kavod comes from, both in this world and the next. Now, why do people often want this? Well, in other words, what's that the root of their mistake? Is because we see the world respects people with money, right? Someone has money, and suddenly, again, everyone is giving that person kavod. Whether the wealthy person deserves kavod, doesn't deserve kavod is almost like irrelevant. The point is, since they have money, by definition, the world gives them kavod. So sometimes a person sees this, and he's like, you know what? I want some kavod also. V'ilu hiskilu vehevinu, ki ein biacholtam v'lo bekocham, lo losis v'lo limnoa, ela lemisha gazar lo habore etzlam, lo haya mekavim lizulaso. And again, if they were to really go ahead and think about this, and understand, like we saw before, wealth, remember again, is one of three buckets. Either it's for you to take care of yourself, you to take care of your family, or ultimately, again, you to hold for others or to lose to others. But bottom line is, wealth comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Wealth is given to me from the Ribono Shel Olam. It's not mine. If a person were to really understand this, l'hayim mekavim lezulaso. Ultimately, again, they wouldn't rely on anyone other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu for wealth. So actually, before I translate this, what he's highlighting over here is as follows. At the end of the day, why do people really give wealthy people kavod? Right? Why do people often just like grovel? Because they hope they're going to get something. In other words, it's not just kavod for the sake of kavod. The wealthy person has something that I perceive that I need. So at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I can to give that person kavod so that I could have some from them as well. But if a person realizes that wealth comes before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then ultimately, again, I would recognize that I don't have to rely on anyone else. And not only that, he says not only that, but no person would be worthy of my honor except one who has been distinguished by HaKadosh Baruch Hu with proper character traits. That's a person who should be honored. In other words, the Chaber says if you recognize that wealth is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so a person doesn't necessarily deserve kavod because they have wealth. That's given to them by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who deserves kavod? A person who has refined character traits, a person who has good midos, because that's something that mamish a person did for themselves. Ki Moshe Kasov, ki mechabde achabed. Pasuk says, those who honor me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will honor them. But since, he says, unfortunately the masses are foolish in the way that they constantly honor the wealthy, ultimately again giving them kavod, hosef lahem abori sichlos besibos bakashosam. He says, v'naflu b'ishtadlus kidola v'yigia ra b'kol yemehem. So kind of like, there's like I'm not going to call it a punishment, but more a result. Since often the masses give honor to a person just because of their wealth, and they give this honor thinking that they're going to get something from the wealthy person because of this display of honor. So what happens? It ends up becoming a cyclical dynamic where then people end up putting in additional hishtadlus in order to acquire wealth. When in fact, as we saw before, a person has to put in some level of hishtadlus. But at the end of the day, too much hishtadlus also represents a lack of bitachon. V'henichu ma shehayu chayavin lehishtadal bo ulamahar elav mehashlim chovos habore shar lehem lahodos al tavasam etzlav. And what happens? A person forgets, neglects to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all of the goodness that He has given him. He goes on, he says, V'tziyana Because again, if a person would be focused on the things they should be focusing on, namely giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the brachos He has given me, putting in the right amount of ishtadlus, but not overdoing it, then a person would be much more successful in ultimately accomplishing all of their goals. Orech yomim biyamina ubismola osher v'chabad. As the pasuk says, length of days is in its right, and in its left are riches and honors. Va'amar va'osher v'akabod milfanachan. The pasuk says, ultimately, again, wealth and honor, ribono shel olam, are before you. So this is really a very profound idea. So what the Mechaber essentially is saying is that sometimes the mistake that we make is we go ahead and we give wealthy people covet. Now, you should give every person covet. What he's talking about is covet that is just given to a person only because of their wealth. They don't deserve it. They haven't done anything. They're not of refined character, but there's such almost like a chanifa, like a graveling, like a covet before such a person. Why? Deep down, because I'm hoping I'm going to get something. I want something from this person. So I feel if I give them covet, I'll be able to get what it is that I want. But in fact, the Mechaber says it's such an exercise in futility, because ultimately that wealth comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and if only I'd be spending that time and that energy doing something different, focusing on something different, how much more enriched my life would be. All right, we'll stop over here for today. A shorter piece for today. Stop over for today. Shkayach, everyone. Looking forward to continuing tomorrow.